Here's 5 things that you need to avoid if you want to become a footballer. Quickly, just about me. My name is Jamie and I make videos to help footballers elevate their career and take it to the next level. I have 3 paid products down below, one of them being a one-to-one mentorship call with me. And then as well as that, I have my 4-week fitness plan and my gym plan. So once you trust me enough, click them 3 links below and make sure to get my products, as they really elevate your career and they do accelerate it as fast as possible. Without further ado, let's get into the 5 things that you need to avoid if you want to become a footballer. So starting off with the first one, we've got doing too much. Now, a lot of people are not going to like this one because there's this grind culture around football where people say you need to work constant training 5 times a day. And now this is ridiculous, because if you do train too much, there are very, very bad negatives associated with it. So first of all, I just want to explain a quick concept within this. So your input for anything in life determines the output that you receive from this. So for example, 1,000 hours of you working on your technical ability will result in you having amazing dribbling. This is basically an objective fact that everyone should understand, right? So whatever work that you put in, you'll get this result in return. So like I've explained, there is a point where you can do too much. Obviously, you have to work hard so you can basically reap all these benefits. So if you work harder than everyone else, you will reap all these benefits. However, if you work too hard, you're going to get an injury. And if you get the injury, then it means that you miss time away from the pitch, which means that your input, whereas it was higher than everyone else's before. Everyone else, the average is here. You're doing all the work up here, but you're basically you're going to reap all the benefits if you continue at this. But because you can't continue at this, and you take time out because you got injured, your input per day, per week, per month, per year drops below the average, because you've worked too hard to the point where you have to miss time away from the pitch, which actually results in you doing less input. Obviously, there's a sweet spot, right? And you'll be able to find out this sweet spot by basically, you have to test the waters with this stuff. You have to put your body to the limit and see what it can take. Yes, you might get injured, but if you find out in turn how much your body can take, then you can build a plan around this, and then you can work at optimal levels for you to basically put in the max amount of input without you getting injured. So you continue this input and then you work as high above the average as you can without getting injured, which will result you specifically in the best outcome that you can. And for some people, it will be higher than others. For example, someone who has an insane recovery can obviously they can do more than other people, which means that they will get more benefit from this. They will get a better result, like playing for a Prem club. But there's obviously a point where it changes between people, and you need to find this sweet spot where you're not doing too much, but you're also working at very, very optimal levels. And the result of this was you work more than everyone else, which will then result you in landing a better deal with a club, playing higher up, etc., etc. So make sure you're not doing too much. And then moving on to point number 2. So point number 2 and 3, I've grouped diet and recovery work together, as it's basically the same concept, right? So this is what I like to call the real hard work. Going out to the pitch 5 times a week and training, especially if you're training with your friends, that's easy, man. That's fun. That's the stuff. You enjoy playing football, right? So that stuff is fun. So that is not the real hard work. The real hard stuff is when you get home, you feel tired, and you need to either go to bed early rather than scrolling on your phone, or you need to do your stretching, your ice bath. That's the hard stuff, right? So if you have poor recovery, it means you can't put in the hard work, because your muscles, they won't recover as fast, which means that if you do put in the hard work, 1, you're going to feel terrible and you're not going to be able to do as much. And 2, you're more likely to get injured, which is the same concept as I explained before. If you get injured, then you overall put in less time than someone who just works at an average pace, basically. So with the recovery, it's so important. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to work as hard as you possibly can. So the way that the concept works with this is you have an optimal point where you can work hard, and you have an optimal point where you can work hard without doing any sort of recovery, right? So this is as hard as you can work without getting injured, this hand here, with no recovery. And this is how hard you can work if you do all the recovery methods, you get all your sleep in, right? So as you sort of add an ice bath into your training after, it means you're going to recover a little bit faster, so you can do another session in the week. Then you also add in 9 hours sleep. And eventually what you'll see is you can work harder and harder, right? So that is why your recovery is so important. And this ties directly into your diet, because obviously if you eat bad food, you're not fueling your body right, then you're also more likely to get injured. But as well as this, with your diet, you will lose all of your fitness gains and your speed by just eating terribly. One, because the obvious, you're going to put on more body fat, right? And more body fat, obviously you carry more weight, so it's harder for your muscles to basically do actions, right? But then as well as this, when you eat things like crisps, sweets, whatever it is all the time, you get a plaque buildup on your blood vessel walls, which then narrows your arteries, which means that your heart and your body has to work harder to pump the blood around your body. And you need blood, oxygenated blood around your body when you're playing football, because you're running, right? And your muscles need to be powered by oxygenated blood. So if you have to work harder, then it basically means that it can't get all the blood, the oxygenated blood required for you to run X amount of distance, do X amount of actions, do a step over, whatever it is, which means that you're going to stop doing it earlier on, which means you're unfitter, right? And as well as this, just from a very obvious point of view, if you're eating crisps, you're eating Domino's day before a game, then you're going to feel terrible. And if you feel terrible, you're going to play terrible. It's the way that you feel is very, very important in football, whether it's mentally or physically, right? You need to be going into games feeling good, feeling happy, so then you can perform at your maximum potential, basically. So that is diet and recovery, and now moving on to point number 4. Now, point number 4, we have working on the wrong things. Now, this is a mistake that I see lots of footballers making, especially young ballers, and I have made the same mistake in the past, because obviously you don't know how to train when you're young. It's something that you learn as you go on. So it's the same concept as before, right? So we want this actions to give us this result, right? But when you put in the wrong actions, you do not get this result. You actually put the wrong actions is effectively no actions, right? Or it can even be worse actions, detrimental actions. So you work this hard, practicing the right things, and you get this result, okay? But then when you work on the wrong things, it basically lowers your input, even though you're not lowering your input, and then you get this result without really lowering your input. So what should you actually work on as a footballer? So these are the 5 things that are the most important. Technical ability, just mastering, being able to manipulate a ball, which I've spoken about in a previous video. Fitness, you can do these good actions like your step overs, your sprints for longer periods of time, which you can just work that out in your head why that's good. It means that when you're in the 85th minute, you can do your step over, you can run around the pitch, you can score, basically. If you want my fitness program, then there is a link in the description, so go get that. And then position-related aspects, you need to be able to learn how to master your position, so you'll specialize your position. This obviously helps you stand out, and it means that you're basically going to give yourself a unique point, right? Because otherwise, if people didn't practice their specific related position stuff, then you could stick a right winger at left back and he'd be the best player going. Like, it wouldn't make a difference, right? So, for example, crossing for wide players. If you're a wide player, then if you practice your crossing, then this is unique to your position, right? And then you're going to get better at it and you're going to be more suited to the position. Just obvious stuff. And then as well as this, weaknesses and strengths. I go through this in my previous video as well, which I would recommend watching. It will also be linked in the description. I'm not going to go too much into that, as you guys should just watch it in the other video. And then as well as this, the absolute basics. If you can pass a ball, then you've got to master the basics rather than doing things like shooting. So if you're a right back and you're practicing your shots from the left side, like it's fine to do if it's just for fun, but you need to be practicing stuff that's related to your position. And finally, we have the thing that I preach the most, which is your discipline, right? This is so essential to your success in football and how far you can make it up the leagues, because there will be times, and there might even be months, where you don't want to train, you don't want to wake up early, you don't want to get in the ice bath, you just don't feel like it. But these are the times when you need to do it, right? Because in today's world, most people, they fail with what they want to do because they're controlled by their emotions. They say they want to be a footballer, and then they have an urge to not go train because they feel that something bad's happened earlier on in the day. They don't want to train. And yes, like, terrible stuff can happen, but you have to be disciplined enough to say, I know that this needs to be done for me to get this outcome, so I need to do it regardless of how I'm feeling, okay? So use the logic side, Don't tap into the emotional side where you're like, I can't be bothered, oh, I'm tired. If you use the logic side, you've said you want to be a footballer, and you know if you want to be a footballer, you have to train X amount of times a week, or do this action today, do this training session today, because it will get me closer to that goal. Then just do it. It's simple, man. And like I've explained, same concept before, more input equals better result, right? So as well as this is when you're going to get the most benefits, not even because you're working better. It's not even really an individual thing, right? Because you're in competition with everyone else who wants to be a footballer. And you gain the most benefit here, not because you're working extremely harder than everyone else, but because everyone else isn't doing it, right? So most people stop when they don't feel like it. So be gassed that these people you're in competition with, right? You're going to get so much further ahead because like 99% of people don't do this, so you will surpass them. That is the 5 things that you need to avoid if you want to become a footballer. We have firstly, doing too much, and secondly, we have poor diet. Thirdly, we have not doing your recovery, and then we have working on the wrong things, and then we have not being disciplined. If you guys did enjoy this video, remember to leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this.